Hey guys.
Happy Sunday. So this has been another full week of just really doing a lot of troubleshooting with all of the different utility problems that we told you about last week. So let's run through some of those. So with the fiber optics, we showed you that we had quite a few trees that we were going to either have to trim or take down in order to make way for the fiber optic lines. Mr. Huff has been very busy working on that this week.
Yeah, I'm really close to having that wrapped up, I think.
Yeah, so I think that at this point they could come out and string lines without having any obstructions. We mostly have, for our own purposes, a lot of branches to deal with that are not in their way anymore, at least. So we have a new appointment scheduled for next Friday. So fingers crossed, we are on the verge of high-speed internet, which would be amazing. Okay, and so let's see, the electricity. So I showed you where they're going to be trenching across the whole orchard and then stringing line across the whole front of the house. We know that's happening soon. We're not really sure when. So it may just be that we wake up one morning and it's going on. We'll see. Hopefully soon, though. And then the third thing was the hot water heater.
Yeah.
So Mr. Huff did replace the sleeve that had rusted out. And we knew going into this that there was a strong likelihood that because it had rusted through and allowed water in the area where the heating coils and the thermostat are housed, there was a good chance we were going to have some additional parts to replace.
Yeah, the score remains water heater 2, Mr. Huff 1. But I will win this.
Yeah, so he's gotten the new sleeve installed. And then the hot water heater did work for the better part of the day. And then we kind of heard a sizzle noise.
Never something you want to hear.
And it went out. So obviously we figured either the heating coil or the thermostat or both had gone out. So that was the next round of work. We got lucky and he was able to find new parts on the secondhand site called Le Bon Coin, which is basically like a French version of Facebook Marketplace. So they actually have both here. They have Marketplace and Le Bon Coin. So he was able to find the parts on the secondhand site. So they were very affordable. The person was really nice and shipped them quickly. He's gotten those installed and not yet.
Yeah, there's one more part that could be replaced, and I think it's going to end up being that part. So I'll go ahead and order that this week, and hopefully I'll have good news next week.
Yeah, so if you remember at the start of this, when we looked at the old bill from when the previous owners had the hot water heater installed, it was like 1,300 euros. A lot of money, and that was 5 years ago. So I haven't even started looking at the prices. I probably don't want to know.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So it's worth putting a little time and money into trying to repair this, because really, if we replace this last part, we should essentially have a brand new hot water heater. There's really not much else to have go wrong with it mechanically. So anyway, we'll be washing dishes and clothes and bathing in the Jeep for a little bit longer, but hopefully we will come out way cheaper than a replacement. So aside from all of those projects, we did make time this week to go out and take a walk in a nearby botanical garden because the tulips are out in kind of full show right now. And I had a hunch that it was going to be quite pretty if we went to go have a look. So I don't know if you've seen, but in the last few weeks, at least the last couple of videos, we've started including a walk at the end of the video, just somewhere interesting. So I think we're going to make that a weekly thing. It's fun to get to show you guys more of the area, but also it's good for us because it means we're at least taking one nice long walk a week. So we've got that for you this week. Now we did mention we had gone to Vidgreniers last week, and one of my favorite ones of the year. We actually ended up going to 2 that day and had a fantastic day of finds.
Fantastic.
Yeah, fantastic. So we'll show you what we were able to find last week. And then, something new for you guys this week. Usually it's me in the kitchen with a recipe. This week it's Mr. Huff, and he's going to be showing you his super easy recipe for pan pizzas.
Yeah, I can make some pizza.
Yeah, that's definitely his superpower. So you want to get to it and show them what we've been up to?
Let's get to it.
All right. Okay, so we had an amazing day at the Vidgreniers. We went to 2. Both were big town-wide sales. And being early in the season, we found some pretty incredible stuff, all of which was stuff that was on our current wish list. So before we went out this morning, we actually reviewed the things that we were looking for so that we would have them in mind when we were walking around and looking at the different sales. So let me show you what we got. All right, so I got 14 jars with good gaskets for a total of €2. That was an incredible deal. And then something that has been on my wish list, it's a bit of a unicorn item, is a soda stream, specifically the crystal soda stream, which is the one that works with glass bottles. So we don't like to use a lot of plastics. And this is something I've wanted for a while, and I didn't think I would be getting one for quite some time because they're actually pretty expensive. So new, the machine sells for €100, and this is the current model here, and it comes with one bottle, and then it is another 20, almost €22 to get 2 more of these bottles. So this is €122 retail, and I managed to get it for 45. So not cheap, but to be able to get something that we wanted at our used price is pretty fantastic. So I'm very happy with that. And I found 2 storage boxes for our pantry. I like to keep all of our grains, oatmeals, flours, things like that in containers so that if there's ever an issue with like weevils or moths or whatever, that we minimize the issue. So both of these together were €1, so 50 centimes each. Great deal on that. And then this right here is the first thing I bought today, and this is an absolute unicorn. I managed to get, let's see if you can see in the shade here, I managed to get 2 brand new sets of cotton curtain panels. These are IKEA brand. They are 118 inches long or 30 centimeters. So these are very long, which is great because I can then hem them to whatever length we need. And they will be going in the Jeet dining room. So generally these are going to be around €40 a pair, we'll say. At IKEA new, and I got both sets for 40. So again, not cheap, but half price on something that I needed. And I've been having a hard time finding cotton curtains secondhand. Alright, next thing we found, Mr. Huff's one and only, well, I guess he had 2 purchases today. So this was his first purchase. Just some hose that he was needing for our dehumidifier so that he can set it up to drain like when we're traveling, that sort of thing. I don't remember what he paid for that. I think, oh, I do actually. It was €2, so very reasonable again. And I think, I forget, 22 meters I think is what we just measured, so it's pretty long. Then I got some ever-bearing strawberries. So in the US I grew June-bearing. Here I want to grow ever-bearing because I think that basically we'll have like 3 seasons of strawberries if we do, because the temperatures are mild enough. In Tennessee it was just, once June was past, it was just really too hot for strawberries to bear fruit. So really happy about these. They were about 6 pots. They were 75 cents a piece. So very reasonable for that. Now I just need to decide where we're going to put them. And then you may know that every time I go to Big Greniers, I try to add to my succulent collection for the rock wall garden. So I bought one of the big ones. I got this one for €3. And it's kind of like almost, I don't know if you can tell, but it's almost like a dinner plate size. And normally people secondhand are selling these for like €5 a piece. So that was a good one. And then something we have had a hard time finding, we have not had yet any tables, like coffee tables for our terrace. So Mr. Huff spotted, well, he spotted one of these because they only had one at their booth. And so I asked the lady how much it was, and she said she said she had 2, and she would sell them to us for €12 for the pair. So 6 a piece. And they're actually storage tables. So they open, I'm not gonna open it all the way because I don't want to break it, but so you have a place to store cushions or whatever. So these are in good shape. They're heavy enough that I don't think the wind is gonna grab them too often. So that was a great deal. Now, absolutely an exhausting purchase because we had to carry them for quite a long ways. But we got some exercise and I'm really happy to finally have those off of our list. So just thought I would show you today's haul. I think early spring is really my favorite time of year to hit yard sales because everybody's had all winter to pile up the stuff that they're wanting to sell. So I just did a bit of grocery shopping in the freezer. Let me show you what I came up with for this week. So I actually didn't know we had any chicken breasts out there. So I found 2 frozen chicken breasts that we got earlier this year when there was a sale. I think they were reduced. And then I thought that would be good in fajitas. So I pulled some chopped peppers. And these again are some that we got in one of those reduced price produce boxes and just chopped and threw in the freezer for later. So that'll be an easy meal this week. And then I went ahead and pulled a package of ground beef. So there's 2 patties in this package. And again, this is something that I only buy when I find it at reduced price. And then we just throw it in the freezer so we'll have it whenever we need it without spending full retail. And then I only buy the 5% lean. Okay, so I was trying to figure out what to do for this week's breakfast. And I came across a jar of homemade pumpkin puree. So I'm gonna make my 3 ingredient pumpkin muffins for our breakfast this week. So that'll be super easy. And then I also pulled a can of my crock pot refried beans. So we'll either use these to make burritos, or we might do like bean bowls, which I really enjoy, just for an easy lunch or dinner. And then as a treat for Mr. Huff, I pulled out some of my homemade blackberry cobbler in a jar. So I don't know, a while back, maybe a month or 2 ago, I made a big batch of these. And since it's just the 2 of us, we froze a bunch of them. So he's gonna be really happy because this is one of his favorites. And then I thought just for an easy lunch today, I've had this idea in my head to try to make baked potato French fries. So my idea is bake some French fries and then top them with the sorts of things you would put on a baked potato. So with that idea, I pulled out a package of lardons, which are basically like bacon bits. And I've shown you before, but here in France, you get these usually in 2 packs of these small servings of bacon bits. It's already chopped, real bacon bits, not the imitation kind that we see a lot in the US. So that's gonna be lunch today, just something easy while we're busy working. And then since I probably need a second lunch, or not lunch, but breakfast item for the week, I pulled some of the frozen blackberries that we foraged last fall. And I'm gonna make some of my overnight oats. So I can, overnight oatmeal parfaits. So I can link to some of these things if you're interested. Any of these that are recipes that I've made, I have the recipes on the website and I can share those. But I just thought I would show you, this is on a busy week when we've got a lot of projects. It's wonderful to have stuff in the freezer you can just pull out. And especially when it's just 2 of us, it's great to be able to make big batches of things and then stash them away so that we have them whenever we need them. Check it out, you guys. We ended up with a second food storage container from the Vignette program at the grocery store. And this was entirely due to a random act of kindness the other day. So when we were checking out, the couple ahead of us in line asked if we were collecting vignettes. And when we said yes, they gave us all of the vignettes from their purchase. So that was an extra 10 vignettes, which is the equivalent of $100. Now, I had basically at this point determined that we were not going to be spending enough before the promotion ended to get another container. But this pushed us over the top, so very pleased with that. So this week, I'm going to try to keep the dehydrator running pretty much around the clock. So last week you saw I dried some dandelions, and this week I'm going to start by drying some peppermint. So when we lived in the US, I did have peppermint in my herb garden, but I always kept it contained in a container so that I didn't have to worry about it spreading, because mint is definitely a plant with invasive tendencies. Now I have spotted 2 different patches of peppermint in the garden beds here, so directly planted in the ground. I don't know what I'll do about that long term, but for now we're going to at least make use of it. So I went out and picked quite a bit, and I'm going to go ahead and pick it off the stems and then get it in the dehydrator. So it should only take somewhere in the maybe 3 to 5 hour range for this to dry, and then we'll have it to use in recipes throughout the year.
Today, I thought I would take a turn in the kitchen and show you how to make personal pan pizzas. So this is a dough ball that I made earlier today. It's my go-to recipe that I've been using for years. We're going to be putting that into deep dish pans like these. These are 8-inch pans. You can also use cake pans or whatever you have. So first thing we're going to do is get some cooking oil and oil these up. The better job you do here, the better results you'll have getting the pizza out of the pan. So go ahead and take your time with this step. So a little history on these pans. One of these is one of the first things Aaron and I bought right after we got married. Another one is a family heirloom. And the other one is this one we've picked up sometime in the past. You want to double check that you got the sides really well, because that's usually where they stick. All right, that looks pretty good. So I've got this big dough ball. We're going to divide that into 3. And in order to do that accurately, we're going to put it over here on the scale. So I've got about 28.22 ounces. So I guess that's about, I don't know, we'll start with 9.5 and see where that gets us. .56, 9.45, 9.17. All right. Pretty even now, so we're going to take this. You can just roll this back into a dough ball. So I'm just turning this bottom, turning it into the bottom. We're going to give it a, put it in the pan and give it a little squish. Don't worry about getting it all the way out to the sides. we're going to let this rise for another hour. And when we come back, it should fill up the whole pan. So you want to have smooth sides. Don't worry too much about the bottom. It'll take care of itself. So if you've ever had Pizza Hut pan pizza, this is similar to the size of that dough. Some people prefer thin crust. Some people like thick crust. I like it all, but this is definitely going to be a thicker crust. All right, so we're just going to cover these up. I've got one sheet of plastic here I used earlier. I can reuse that. And grab a couple more pieces, and I'll get this covered up, and we'll see you in an hour. All right, it's been an hour, and our dough has filled out our pans nicely, as you can see. So we're gonna go ahead and put some sauce on these. This is Aaron's no-cook homemade sauce. And we'll scoop a little on there. Spread that out. You want to leave a little bit of crust. You want to make sure this is pretty even. You don't want to have any bare spots or spots that are too thick. I don't know if you guys can see it, but this is going to be awesome. It's super fluffy dough. Just what you want if you're a thick crust person or a pan lover. Let's add a little bit more here. I'm one of those people that thinks sauce can make or break your pizza. So, good sauce and even application really makes a pizza. All right, some people like to put their toppings on before the cheese. Some people do it my way. I put my cheese on first. So one thing to note here, you want to be careful when you put your cheese on because you don't want it falling down into cracks. If it falls in a crack, then you've got a situation where you're going to have to scrape it out of the pan. At this point, you could leave it like this if you just like cheese pizzas, but I like pepperonis. Now these are big pepperonis. Usually what you find in the US are the small pepperonis, but pepperonis are pepperonis nonetheless. All right, so we've got them decorated. I don't see any cheese down in the cracks. There's a little bit of cheese. Try to get that out. Now they're going to bake for 8 to 10 minutes at 490 degrees. but every oven is different, so just check them. It may take a few minutes longer than that. All right, it's time to get the pizzas out. Oh, look at that. What are you saying we cut one? Look at all that fluffy crust. All right. I'll include a link to the sauce, the dough, and the pan pizza recipe under the video description. So, if you'll excuse me, I have pizza to eat now.
This week, Mr. Huff and I packed a picnic lunch and we headed to one of our favorite local botanical gardens.